Alright, ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back. It's me, Addy, again, and I hope you guys are doing amazing as always. One could say this past week has been pretty crazy, especially if you're a fan of Bloodborne and Final Fantasy IX. I know, two very seemingly different games, but here's why. Both games have been celebrating their respective anniversaries. For Bloodborne, that was on March 24th, for which we've been doing a really fun lore run playthrough over on my Twitch channel to celebrate. Bloodborne's my second favorite game ever made. No matter how many times I play it, it never gets old. I absolutely love it. Shame that Sony never did anything with it, but that's neither here nor there. That's not what I want to focus on today. Final Fantasy IX, which is the focus of today's video, is celebrating its 25th anniversary, which hasn't exactly happened yet. That's going to be in July, but Square Enix are gearing up to celebrate the occasion. But like Bloodborne, Final Fantasy IX is absolutely one of my favorite games ever made, and I would go so far as to say that it is within my top 3 favorite Final Fantasies ever made, next to 7 and Tactics, of course. So it should come as no surprise to you folks that over the past 4 years of this Nvidia leak existing, which spoke of a bunch of games rumored to be in development, including a Final Fantasy IX and Tactics remake / remaster, that I have been watching like a hawk for any news, any rumors, any confirmation of these things actually being out there in the ether and existing. And the reason to be really optimistic is because on this document, pretty much every single game that was rumored to be in development got announced at some point. And really at this point, we're only waiting on 9 and Tactics to be unveiled. And not long ago, I believe there were some more rumors that came out talking about how the development on 9 Remake has been going steadily and that we should be anticipating an announcement pretty soon. A lot of folks also believe a Final Fantasy IX Remake / remaster may be a game that debuts on the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2, for which we're going to be getting a direct about all the information surrounding the system as well as some potential launch exclusives in 2 days now. See where I'm going with all this? Yeah, given that we're at this point now, knowing everything we know, the chances of a 9 remake or remaster happening are at an all-time high, if you put everything together. I mean, really, if you're someone like me, and I know there's so many of you folks out there who are like me, who have an absolute adoration for Final Fantasy IX, then you're not going to look at the crazy timing of Square Enix's announcement for the 25th anniversary of this game, and the Nintendo Direct happening in 2 days, and think to yourself, this is just a crazy coincidence. My fingers are crossed that in 2 days when we check out this Direct live on my Twitch channel, that we are finally going to get the long-awaited announcement to Final Fantasy IX. Don't worry though, I am keeping my expectations in check, but it's hard not to when Final Fantasy IX is a game that just means so much to you, and I'm sure a lot of you out there can absolutely resonate with that feeling. So what's really exciting is that Square Enix actually went ahead and set up a 25th anniversary webpage for Final Fantasy IX, which, by the way, the fact that this game is 25 years old and came out in 2000 blows my mind. I was born a year before this game came out, so I'm starting to feel old, man. Recently, between stuff like the Bloodborne 10-year anniversary and this game's 25th, I'm starting to feel like a fossil, just a little bit. Just gonna put that out there. Normally, I like feeling like I'm older, unlike most other people, considering I've been used to being the youngest in my family, but as of late, that's sort of beginning to change with stuff like this, putting stuff into perspective. But that's neither here nor there. I've translated this webpage to English. Fair warning that when you go here, it's in Japanese, so you'll have to press this little icon at the top right if you want to read what most of this is saying in English. But mostly from what I understand, and this is kind of my first time going through this with you guys, Square have largely announced a line of merchandise surrounding Final Fantasy IX, so should be kind of awesome to look forward to that. As you can tell, I have a bunch of FF7 stuff in my background, but nothing for FF9. I have a bunch of merchandise and posters and stuff like that from the games that I love. Even got a little Tactics poster up there, but after this stuff comes out, I'm going to need to try and cop this as quick as I can, or rather whenever I can, because you can't not have some FF9 stuff in your life. But here it all is. I love the logo here for starters. FF9 25th anniversary. Announcement of the release of its 25th anniversary related products. There you go. So right off the bat, we see some really cool models and plushies that we're going to be able to get. There's Zidane, the man, the myth, the legend, the main character of FF9, the cheeky little thief with a heart of gold. I really hope that there's a remake, remaster one day, man, so I can hear them being fully voiced. All these characters that I know and love from the game, particularly Zidane. And we'll talk eventually about my hopes and dreams for a 9 remake or remaster. in a little bit, but there's Garnet as well. I love the quality of these models. I'll go ahead and say that right off the bat. It'll be really cool to eventually be able to snag these and have them in my room here. Also kind of cute that they are doing a necklace for Garnet here, or rather this is Garnet's necklace that you can get. I think that's very, very fancy. Garnet is for August 2025, Sedan's for July 2025. Very, very cool. And then you got the plushies, right? Super adorable. I love how they have plushies for, I think, every single character here, right? The Vivi one is going to be the one I absolutely buy first and foremost. Really, it's the only one I need in my life, right? How can you not have? I do have like a little Black Mage poster there of Vivi, but I will never say no to more Black Mage stuff because Black Mages are just one of the most iconic staples of Final Fantasy, right? And then Vivi in particular is the most beloved of all the Black Mages throughout the games, for sure. But it's also really cool now how we have more identifiable characters from Final Fantasy IX now, beyond just the Black Mage Vivi. Now we have Garnet, Zidane, as we saw, Steiner, the most goofy, wholesome character in the entire game, the most well-rounded character in my opinion, Eiko, Quina, the Blue Mage, Almirant, most flashy dapper dude in the game for sure, right? I remember back in the day when I played Final Fantasy IX, I was in love with this guy's character design. When I saw him on the cover of Final Fantasy IX on the jewel case, I had no idea what was going on. It took me years to figure out what was going on with his design, and that he was actually standing next to the other characters facing the opposite direction. And I didn't realize that he had dreads and that his face was facing the opposite direction of the other characters, looking at the player, looking at the front. So his character design is one of the trippiest I've ever seen. I love it. And then we have Freya, a lot of people's favorite character from 9, Beatrix and Kuja, who I hope that if they ever do a remake remaster, they make Beatrix and Kuja playable to some extent. I think that would be really wicked. But yeah, I guess the plushies come out August 2025. So lots of merch there to look forward to. There are also more things to be excited for beyond just statues and plushies and stuff like that for this game's commemoration. One of those is a music vinyl here, which is really, really neat. That comes out in July. So if you're a sucker for these games' soundtracks like I am, right? Nobuo Uematsu's music will never be outclassed in my opinion. Will forever and always be in the pantheon of greatest video game music ever made. Then this is something you have to look forward to. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. 9 next to 7 has my favorite soundtrack out of any Final Fantasy game. In fact, I would say that 9 is up there with just having one of my favorite game OSTs, period, out of anything I've ever played. The moment you listen to the field theme, the overworld theme of Final Fantasy IX, you can't not be taken back to the very first time you played the game and just feel this wave of nostalgia, right? God, all this makes me really hope and dream for a remaster remake someday, just to be able to walk through those fields again of Terra and listen to the beautiful overworld music as if I'm listening to it for the very first time all over again. I think that would be absolutely spellbinding. I love the artwork, by the way, for this vinyl, the cover art, right? Amazing, man. I think this is one of the coolest cast of characters, and there's so many illustrations of them that I see that just never fail to make me smile, right? And I think some kind of like a Studio Ghibli style for any sort of series that they might ever do, which I think that was rumored to be in development, or even like a remaster if they'll like ever do it in a different art style from the original. Like a Studio Ghibli approach would be absolutely legendary. I love this. So it's called Timeless Tale. It's a recorded version of Melodies of Life, which that on its own is magical enough. One of the greatest themes for any video game ever. Never fails to bring a tear to my eye, especially when it plays at the end of Final Fantasy IX. So cool. So it uses a new 25th anniversary illustration drawn by Toshiyuki Itahana, and liner notes by Nobuo Uematsu will be published as well. Very cool. It's definitely a must-have for fans of FF9, I feel. It says songs here plural, but it strongly implies or emphasizes the Melodies of Life aspect, but we'll see. Regardless, I don't think you can go wrong with this. Just anything and everything from FF9's OST is gold, no matter how much of it is covered, right? Here's something else that's really, really cute as well, and I have a bookshelf off camera that I've showed off sometimes on stream. There you guys go, you can check that out right there. It's got a bunch of geeky stuff on there, mainly from video games and what have you. I would love to have this on that bookshelf as well. A picture book, The Beginning Story of Vivi and Grandpa, which takes place shortly before the story of FF9, will be released on July 2nd. So This is adorable, man. I was just mentioning how something Ghibli coded would be beautiful for the world of FF9, right? And I think this is just giving me those vibes, and I love that. It's so wholesome. So it's a little picture book prequel to Final Fantasy IX about Vivi's adventures with his quote-unquote grandpa, right? Vivi appears before Grandpa Quan, who is trying to master the way of food. Food is emptiness. The strange life of a boy who fell from the sky and a master who lives alone. A prequel that depicts the gradual days until Vivi's departure. I think this would be something beautiful to have. I would love to get this. Honestly, I'm more so looking forward to this when it comes to all of these products that they are advertising than the actual statues and plushies and stuff like that. But yeah, it comes out on July 2nd, and yeah, full color, 44 pages. This is going to be something absolutely spellbinding for sure. And you got some kind of a promotion and collaboration announcement for an eyewear brand called Zoff. Is this game trying to just drain my wallet? I mean, look, I wear glasses, right? Am I going to need to shell out for this as well? Probably not, but that's just really funny to think about. 3 types of collaboration eyewear will be released, each with a limited edition eyeglass, cleaning cloth, and case. Online reservations will start in early July. This has got to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what this looks like, what an FF9 and glasses collaboration would look like. I'm looking up Zoff glasses right now because this is my first time hearing about them. Don't look like anything too special, but I'd imagine with an FF9 collaboration, they could look a little bit snazzy, right? Can't wait to see what that shapes up to be. But looks like that's it for the news for what they have announced for FF9's 25th anniversary celebration. There is something here as well, some kind of an interesting lottery going on. Right? We don't really know what this is all about, so we'll have to look into it later down the line. But man, fingers freaking crossed that these little tiles over here at the bottom right are yet to be filled up with some hopefully inevitable remake news. Hopefully after the Nintendo Direct in 2 days. Man. It's a very interesting time right now. All of this bubbling up enthusiasm could be for nothing, right? Maybe in 2 days, the Switch 2 is unveiled, but it's more or less a nothing burger from my perspective. I'm sure there are going to be things that they announce that will blow the socks off of a whole bunch of people, but there could potentially not be a whole lot of stuff in there for me. I'm hoping that's not the case and that this is one of the biggest surprises that puts a massive grin on my face. It would kind of track if Final Fantasy IX were to be revealed as some sort of a timed exclusive on the Nintendo Switch 2, considering that not long ago, Square Enix decided to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that would include Nintendo as well with their future game releases. It would also be kind of fitting in a way. The last time I did a playthrough of Final Fantasy IX, it was about 4-ish years ago on my Switch itself, so it'd be kind of poetic to visit the remake or remaster if it ever happens on the Switch 2. Definitely does seem like that cozy kind of Nintendo game, right? It just feels so right that it would be a Nintendo title, but obviously I hope that if it were to come out on the Switch 2 as a launch title or something like that, that it obviously won't be stuck on the Switch 2, and that we'll eventually see it down the line on pretty much every single platform. But I want to spend the last couple minutes of this video talking about my hopes and dreams for a potential Final Fantasy IX remake or remaster. I know we bring this up a lot on streams, and I know a lot of people in the past in the community have been wondering what my desires would be for something of that nature. If a 9 remake were to happen, what would I want it to look like? So here's where I stand on it. First off, we'll get the elephant out of the room. I don't think a Final Fantasy IX remake is going to be anywhere near the scale of the Final Fantasy VII re-trilogy. As much as I would love for this to be the case, I mean, who wouldn't, right? The 7 remake treatment to another Final Fantasy classic here, especially one that is loved by so many people and is hailed as being one of, if not the greatest titles within the entire franchise. Who wouldn't love a game like that to be given the remake treatment, right? As much as I would love that, I think due to factors like the time that they've put into making the Final Fantasy VII remake games and the time that they're still taking to make them, considering the 3rd game is still yet to come out, it's still in development, and when it's out, it will likely have been 12 to 13 years since the project was even announced, which was back in 2015. as well as stuff like scale and feasibility, not even to mention the earnings from these games, which I believe that Square announced that Rebirth fell short of their expectations when it came to that. Highly, highly, highly unlikely that they will be taking on an endeavor that massive, especially when 9 is a bigger game than 7. 7 originally had 3 discs. It was a pretty dang expansive game, but it isn't the biggest game that they've ever made from that era of Final Fantasy. And when you take into consideration the fact that despite that, they still felt the need to make a 3-part trilogy in order to do a modern remake justice to the scale of the original game, it makes you shudder at the thought of how big a multi-part series for a Final Fantasy IX remake would need to be. So no, being realistic, I don't think there will be a Final Fantasy IX remake on the scale of the 7 remake series. But in an ideal world where everything was sunshine and rainbows and perfect, there would be. Where I think they could realistically go all out as much as possible would be somewhere where they stay in between a remake and a remaster, or rather a remaster make, as I like to call it. So there's been a reason why throughout this video I've been saying remake or remaster, and it's because I kind of view the ideal scenario for 9 remake kind of being somewhere in the middle. Once again, a remaster make. And as a good example, my mind immediately goes to something more recent that came out, that being Crisis Core Reunion as part of the Final Fantasy VII franchise. Crisis Core Reunion was a remaster of the original Crisis Core that came out in 2007, which I absolutely adored. It was one of my favorite games growing up. And I think that Reunion / the remaster to Crisis Core that came out in 2022 was the best remaster to anything I have ever played. CC Reunion did exactly what I would want a remaster to do. And that was, it cleaned up and overhauled the visuals of a 2007 game on the PSP, as well as touching up a lot of the gameplay systems, the UI, the controls, in order to make it feel like a more modern game, and in order for it to be more accessible in general. And they didn't just stop at that, right? They added stuff like voice acting. While the OG Crisis Core had voice acting in it, CC Reunion took the smaller bits and pieces in between the more substantial scenarios and added full voice acting to those. The game made for a true, ambitious, definitive version of a beloved PSP classic. And this is what I ultimately think a 9 remaster make should be. It doesn't need to be something radically reconstructed from the ground up like a 7 remake. I would much prefer something that is largely in line with the original vision that they had, if not the same exact game, just with cleaner models, cleaner environments, in addition to contemporary toppings like full voice acting, and tweaks here and there in areas that could use some polishing, namely with the trance system in combat, as well as some story scenarios with some of the characters in this game whose arcs weren't entirely wrapped up in a satisfactory way. While I did love the story and characters of 9 ultimately, I did think that there were some areas where certain folks like Amarant, for example, could have been developed a little bit more. His storylines could have been tied up a little bit better with folks like Freya, for example. I think that's something we could realistically expect out of a 9 remake, remaster make. A beloved, recognizable classic that's been reduxed. Even though something like the fan-made Memoria project would be beautiful, I just don't see Square Enix going that route for the entirety of the game. Something like the Moguri mod for 9, except redone models and environments, in addition to all these bells and whistles that we already talked about, is something that I could actually foresee for the game, and something that I would prefer as well, considering that I don't think, in general, that 9 needs something as substantial as 7 Remake did. In fact, 7 itself didn't need any of that in the first place. It was already the perfect game. It's just that 7 happened to be the one that got chosen for this perfect sunshine and rainbows world, for getting the true, definitive, beautiful, modern, fully 3D remake that we all wanted for a Final Fantasy game. Also because FF7 was a money printing machine for Square Enix, obviously. But that's probably going to be it for this video today here, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts on a Final Fantasy IX remake or remaster. Do you think that we are on the cusp of witnessing its announcement here at the Nintendo Direct in 2 days? Are you excited for something like that? What do you want out of something like that? What is your ideal Final Fantasy IX remaster or remake or what have you? Let me know your thoughts. Regardless of what Square Enix ends up cooking for this game, I'm going to be there day 1, and it's going to be a beautiful time. I'll catch you all in the flip-flop, but until then, if you guys want to come by, say hi while I'm live, then be sure to check out twitch.tv/irritableindian. Like I said, on Wednesday, April 2nd, we are going to be checking out the Nintendo Direct, where fingers frickin' crossed, prayers being sent to the live stream, Final Fantasy IX Remake / Remaster gets announced. That would be the dream. Let's manifest it together, guys, alright? And also keep our expectations in check, right? As a wise man once said, keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed. That's it, folks. Keep on keeping on.